And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Okay, looking at satellite imagery today, have low pressure still spinning out here over the northern Bering Sea, and clouds covering the western half of the state, as well as into the Copper River Basin, down across south central Alaska. A few breaks in the overcast here, and a lot of moisture now into the southeast coast, and a bigger batch now coming up toward the Queen Charlottes with a system right here, about to spread into the area there. A lot of sunshine, another warm day up here north of the Alaska Range, especially over the Yukon Flats, and scattered clouds up along the Arctic coast. And for the flying weather conditions, we'll start out here in the west. IFR again, much of the Bering Sea into the southwest coast for Tuesday morning, and all the way up to the western Alaska Range here, covering all of the Aleutians and up right along the Arctic coast. Marginal VFR here, east central interior, mostly due to the smoky conditions there. VFR on down into northern Cook Inlet, most of the Copper River Basin, Prince William Sound, North Gulf Coast. Mostly IFR for the southeast coast. And marginal VFR here, Kenai Peninsula, southern Cook Inlet, Kodiak Island. And for tomorrow afternoon, still marginal VFR due to smoke in the east central interior areas with afternoon thunderstorms developing in that area there, mostly in the east all the way up to the eastern north slope. No change in the flying conditions out here to the west, except pulling back a little bit. IFR still into Cape Newenham, maybe Togiak, but basically out off the coast, so covering Nunivak Island, right along the Arctic coast. Some IFR sliding up to southern southwest Kodiak Island, Fognak Island, south central Alaska, marginal VFR, southeastern Copper River Basin, improving here over the Panhandle, becoming mostly marginal in the afternoon. And then back to the IFR for the Wednesday morning time, and also for the North Gulf Coast and into the Gulf of Alaska to Prince William Sound IFR. Better conditions in toward Cook Inlet with marginal VFR up to the Alaska Range. Still smoky conditions up over the eastern interior or north or east central interior here. Just about the Tanana Valley up toward into the Yukon Flats. No change. Some IFR now getting a little farther southward or making landfall along the Arctic coast, pushing inland a little bit with marginal VFR just to the south of that. Solid IFR here, Bering Sea right up to the southwest coast into Bristol Bay, possibly up to Bethel as well, and the Alaska Peninsula and the Aleutians. And for the afternoon, that kind of pulls back to the coastline a little bit there. Eastern Aleutians becoming marginal VFR, Alaska Peninsula. A lot of marginal VFR over the southwest interior across all of southern Alaska. Still the smoke up over the east central interior areas. IFR along the Arctic coast, Gulf of Alaska, IFR. Marginal for the Panhandle, passes Anutuvik and Adigan. Another VFR day for Tuesday for both passes. And for Lake Clark and Merrill, marginal VFR. Rainy, occasionally marginal. Windy, VFR. Isabel, looking good tomorrow. VFR flying there. Mentasta, VFR. Antonita, VFR. Portage, also VFR, but Chilcoot and White, IFR for the entire day. Freezing levels, 6,000 feet, cooler air here over the northern Bering Sea. Quite a gradient there across the Aleutians here in southern Bering Sea, 8 to 14,000 feet. Then some cooler air sliding in across Kodiak Island, southwest interior, warming up as you head northeast. And for icing, look for a band of isolated moderate rime icing here along the southwest coast in the Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta across Bristol Bay to about southwest Kodiak Island. Another elevated potential up here in the northwest part of the state, western Brooks Range. And also over the Panhandle could be some mixed icing there. Jet stream, again, strongest jets south of the Aleutians here, or near just south of the Aleutians, up to 110 knots, and then taking off to the east and then southeast. So light winds at 33,000 feet. Panhandle and mainland Alaska and the Bering Sea. 9,000 feet, 35 to 40 knot winds here for the Aleutians. Southeast, 35 to 40 knots over the Yukon Flats up across the central North Slope area. And 3,000 feet, easterlies, 30 to 35 knots there for the Arctic coast and for the central and western Arctic coastal areas. And then 30 to 35 knot winds here across the southern Bering Sea down to about the Aleutians. Light and variable over interior Alaska. Maybe a little area of 25 knot southeast winds off the north coast of the Panhandle. Otherwise light. And turbulence, pretty smooth here over much of mainland Alaska, southeast coast, and surface to 5,000 feet. Could see some isolated moderate turbulence there from about Nikolsky westward to Amchitka Island.